Welcome to Giraffes Don't Eat Steak, the podcast for curious marketers who zig when others zag. Join your hosts, Erica Magpie and Alex Bilney from the Marketing Detective Agency, as we uncover bold marketing moves, challenge the obvious, and dig into what really makes marketing strategy work. If you're tired of rinse and repeat marketing advice, you're in the right place. So grab a coffee, lean in, and let's get curious. And hey, if you like what you hear, follow the show, leave a review, and share it with someone who loves smart marketing as much as you do. Let's get started. Hello, Alex.
Hey Erica, how are you doing?
I am good. Hot. I'm really hot, but I'm good. You're in a jersey. I'm getting hot just
Yeah,
looking at
I'm
you.
cold. I'm cold. My hands are cold. I've got them wrapped around the hot chocolate to warm myself up.
Yeah, you're making me hot just looking at you. I may switch your video off so I don't have to look at you. I'm so excited to welcome Simon Hutchings to our podcast today. Welcome, Simon.
Hey, Erica. Hi, Alex. Thanks for
Hi
having me.
Simon, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So Simon and I, well, we've never met in person, which is what I say about a lot of the guests that come on here. But anyway, we've never met in
It's
person.
normal now. It's normal.
Yeah, it's
It
kind of the
is
way of the
normal.
world, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we were introduced by a mutual client, I guess, and we just couldn't stop talking. I think we chatted for over an hour on marketing topics, and I said, "Oh, Simon, we can do this right on the podcast." So here we are. So, Simon, for our listeners and for Alex who doesn't know you, tell us a little bit about you and your business.
Yeah, so I'm a graphic designer through and through. Been in this industry since 2000 now, so 25 years. I effectively run a branding and design collective. I call it a collective because we're not really an agency. We don't have quite an agency approach, but we still have a number of freelancers that I kind of work alongside me to build out the team, which is amazing. And we work with businesses on their creative strategy. So not brand strategy, which is slightly different. So like the implementation of that creatively. And then running through their entire business, so like identity creation into marketing and beyond. So yeah, it's quite in depth. It's like I said, it's kind of built into me now. I know no other road after 25 years. So yeah, I think and everything's going really well at the moment. So I'm very grateful for that.
It sounds illegal for 2000 to be 25 years ago.
It
I
does.
know, it's mad, isn't it?
I love what you said that you call yourself a collective. I've never thought about that before, actually. Like when we talk about ourselves being an agency, well, you use the word agency. Yeah, that kind of does imply it's, your full employee team, but the world is slightly different and we do use lots of freelance and things now. But it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that doesn't mean that you're not really connected to those freelancers. You could still you have been working with them for 20 years, but they've just always been freelancers.
Yeah.
And I really like that term collective. That's really nice.
Yeah, I think it just brings out a level of flexibility as well within the business. So, we can partner with other people, we can bring other people in. I'm really fortunate, actually. I mean, some of the designers that I've got have been with me for well over 10 years. I think even the newest one that's come into the fold, if you like, that's been with me for 4 or 5 years now. So, they tend to stick around. So I must be doing something right. But yeah, it takes the pressure off of them as well. They're not locked into us. We're not locked into them. So, if they've got some other projects they want to go complete, that's great because that can kind of spark their creativity as well. They can bring back into what we're doing. So yeah, I think it works really well.
I love that. That's really cool.
So one of the conversations you and I got into was about how a lot of people think brand and design is only about your logo and your website, and how we both agreed that it's actually all the way through the business.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's amazing, isn't it? How although we get applied with design pretty much every second of every day in one way or another, you can't walk out the door without seeing some form of design. And business owners are always getting drummed into this kind of fact that you know, we need to have that level of brand awareness and brand buy-in, that it's just little tiny pieces of an identity that we can see that will say, yes, that's Apple, or yes, that's, you know, someone else, Tesco's or whoever. But a lot of businesses, particularly smaller ones, still don't think about how that's implemented into their business. You know, they think, oh, to get that far, I need, you know, tens of thousands of pounds to start implementing it, and it's just not the case anymore. You know, it's just a mindset thing. And you know, I think, I mean, obviously you do a lot of this work as well, but you know, for businesses to start off by really understanding those foundational levels. So not just going in with, right, I've got this great business idea, I need a logo. Right, let's just unpack the great business idea a little bit first, and you know, really understand the story behind it, your target market, what the benefits to them are, what the benefits to you are of working with other people, and kind of really build on that to start off with. So that both them and us potentially have got this kind of brand blueprint that we can follow. You know, in the past I've called it the business's DNA, because it's kind of the cultural elements that are built into the business. And sometimes it's very hard for businesses to really get that. I think they almost feel like they've got to have, the world's got to have a perception of the type of business that they are, rather than actually see them for who they really are. And that's kind of really dangerous as well, I think. I don't know about what you see with regards to that in the market at the moment.
Well, I mean, we've talked about this quite a lot. I mean, not exactly that, but in terms of a lot of the focus in business is top of the funnel. So, you know, getting leads in and making sure the front of your shop looks really, really beautiful. And then as soon as they're in, there's a lot of neglect towards your customers in terms of providing them that additional I mean, at the top of the funnel, you're doing a lot of nurturing, sending them lots of beautiful pieces of content to keep them interested, keep them informed, educate them. But when they come in, for some reason, we stop doing that. A lot of business stop doing that, and we don't want to spend the time to educate them and still take them on through the journey and keep them sticky within the business and retain them. And that's exactly the same as what's happening with a lot of branding and design. We spend a lot of the time focusing on the logo on the website and on the marketing messages. But as soon as they're in the business and we're taking them through new campaigns, etc., they're still touching the brand. And a lot of the time, even with like pitch decks, for example, if you have I don't know, for example, a team of engineers. I've worked with team engineers before, and I'm just going to pick on them. Sorry, engineers, but you're the worst when it comes to design. And a lot of the times they will just grab a PowerPoint template, which has no resemblance whatsoever to your brand, and start using that. And it might just seem like a minor thing, presenting, you know, the latest results to your client with a non-branded deck. But it's all those little touch points that add up over time, that added with the neglect of not giving them branded content and awareness and educational pieces as you go along. So I think it's really important that it's running all the way through the business.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's kind of what I kind of term as design after marketing now, because you know a lot of businesses are still reserving design for marketing, and it's kind of a bit dangerous, to be honest. Because like you say, when you're trickling people through the business from kind of pre-sales into sales and onboarding, we're kind of seeing the amount of design that's being implemented just going lower, lower and lower, until you kind of get to a point where, well, maybe it's the engineers again, but you know, some of those onboarding emails and things that are systemized are kind of like, well, maybe if we just chuck a logo in the top right hand corner, that'll probably just do it for the moment. It's got a bit of color in it. We can probably use a font that looks similar, and that's kind of enough for them. And we're always looking for those touch points now, you know. And I think it gives businesses, but so especially those slightly larger businesses, it gives them a perfect opportunity to cross sell as well. Or someone else termed it, someone I used to work with a number of years ago, who was really great at sales, termed it as land and expand. And I've heard it quite a few times. I hadn't heard it before then, but it gives you that opportunity to cross sell and land and expand into different areas of the business as well.
Absolutely. I think one of the actually a fun project Alex and I worked on is we were brought in actually to redo the brand, right? So they did a brand update, refresh.
Yeah.
We called it refresh because any other word scares the owner to death. So we termed it refresh, just refresh. But because of that, and at the same time, they were doing an office move. And so it was so lovely for us to be involved in everything because we got fully involved in the design of the new offices to match the new branding. And therefore we could get involved in every touch point because it's also what your employees are feeling, right? Because if they're not feeling the brand, if they're in a dirty, ugly office and you're doing all this wonderful stuff for your client, how are they portraying that? How are they able to display the right values if they're not feeling as valued as your clients? So that was a lovely project for us because we and I guess we were a bit sneaky to get it done, Alex, because we kind of pushed our way. We were brought in to just do the logo. And then from the logo, we moved into the website, we moved into all the materials, we moved into, and then it was like, oh, and the office, and. And so because we got our foot in the door, I guess we kind of expanded our scope. But actually, everyone was so happy with the end result, including, we did a big reveal for the staff, which was fun, and had a big party, and it was all good. And I think that kind of integration of the design elements, as you say, into every aspect of your business plays such a huge part in your business success.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the things that we've been doing over the last probably 3 or 4 years now is when we get that opportunity to either, we're looking at a brand build or an identity creation or an evolution, as we call it, which is like less scary than a rebrand. Everyone goes, oh, it's too much money. So, is to actually present. So we've got a specific process we go through, but the point at which we present the identities, we automatically build in some rollout examples. And it really does just help whoever we're presenting to just to really grasp the identity and how it's going to work for them going forwards. I still hear, well, for me, it's horror stories, but where business owners are being presented 3 to 5 separate logos on a page, and like different colors, different fonts, different feels, different iconography. It's a totally overwhelming experience, and the kind of rebrand, kind of phrasing it's got so much negativity to it with regards to how are we going to implement it? How long is it going to take? It's going to cost us a huge amount of money. So if we can take away that overwhelm really quickly and kind of give them real life examples, not just kind of like, here's a flat of a leaflet, here's a flat of so-and-so, here's a flat, but actually mocking it up so they can see something that almost feels pretty tangible. It really brings things to life for them.
No, we the same.
Yeah, it's a fatal mistake to assume that somebody can visualize something in the same way as you can. So you do it's critical to give them those examples. Otherwise you're kind of shooting in the dark in terms of guessing what they might be imagining.
I think they're kind of making choices based then on just personal preferences as opposed to what's best for the business. So they get five logos on a sheet, massively overwhelming, lots of different things to look at, lots of different colors. So probably where they're going to go is, well, I quite like blue. So and they go and pick the blue one because everything else is just like, I can't take this anymore. I just need this done. And then it's not going to be optimal for the business. But if we've done our work beforehand that we know we're good at, and we've got a process to guide them through that first, it just makes being able to see the end result before we've even got there almost is just fantastic, I think.
Yeah, I mean, but when you're talking about personal preference, I mean, that is a big hurdle, and it's a big hurdle for everybody. And if we're all honest, we all stumble, we all make that error at some point in our lives, even as branding and marketing experts. We have a bias, and you'd be naive to admit that you do not have it. And like you said, as long as the best way to overcome that is to put through some kind of systematic process where you can then think objectively about what you're doing. You know, what is the purpose of why I'm doing this? What are the reasons that I've come to this conclusion or these options, just to try and mitigate as much of your internal bias as possible.
Um, for example, I hate pink. It's a childhood bias. My mother dressed us in pink until I was 16 and I could rebel. And so I hate pink. And I think it was for our mutual client, you designed their logo, which is pink. And so I got asked what I thought. And I always package it. Who are you asking? Are you asking Erica the person? Okay, is it me personally? Are you asking me as a potential client? Because even that's a different hat. Are you asking me as a marketing expert with that hat? Like, how are you asking me? Because I will answer it completely differently depending on the context. And this is why, and I think Alex knows this is my bugbear. You know, when people put it on LinkedIn or something, like, look at my new logo, what do you think? Or look at my website, what do you think? And I just want to like scream, because who are you asking? And in what context are you asking? And what are you even going to do with the information? It's completely useless, okay? Because if 0 people are your target audience, are you going to listen? If they all tell you they hate pink, like if they're all me and they go, oh no, pink sucks, don't use pink, don't use pink. Are you going to change your logo based on that? Like, it really drives me crazy when people do that on LinkedIn. Yeah, you've seen it, I'm sure,
Yeah.
right?
It's kind of like now you need to put those like the AI prompt part on the front
Yep.
of the LinkedIn page by acting as my developer. Could you
Exactly.
review the following logo?
Oh, I love that. That's exactly what it is.
We're going to
I
start
need
seeing
to
that all
say
over
that.
LinkedIn.
I need the AI prompt. Even my sister wrote a book and she sent it to me. And again, I had to ask for the AI prompt. I had to say, okay, how do you want this feedback? As your sister who loves you, as a marketing person, as a proofreader, there's so many roles, right? Like, I just need to be sure I'm answering the right way. Because if she expected a sisterly answer and I'm giving her marketing critique, we would have had a problem.
I guess there could be a purpose for posting your logo or new logos online if you just wanted to create some noise and you actually didn't,
Noise.
and you don't care what the answer is. You just want, in fact, you're putting some disgusting logos up on there on purpose so that everyone's like, oh my God, what idiots, have you seen this? Why are they changing it? And then you know, just going for the any press is good press vibe.
Or what did we call it, Alex? Doing the Hungarian.
Hungarian, yeah.
So we worked with different TV teams. And the team in Hungary, have to be honest, was the worst team, like literally the worst team. And what they did is, because we were the client, so we had what we wanted, and they would always tell us, we'll do your stuff at the end of the day. Okay, so we'll first do it the way we want to do it, but we will do your stuff at the end of the day. And of course, by the time you got to the end of the day, they'll tell you, oh, the light's bad now, we've run out of time now, and they could never do your stuff. But then they would also present you with like really horrific options and like for what the actors should wear or anything like that, like bad options, and then sort of one half okay option. So in your mind you had to choose the half okay option because the others were so bad.
Which
So
is, of course, the one they wanted.
yes,
Yeah.
so that's why we've called it Doing the Hungarian, because we felt like that's what they did to us a lot. I even drove, Alex knows this, they told me the shirt I wanted was for this particular actor, and there was a shirt that I knew would look good on him. And they said to me, no, you can only have this one. It doesn't exist in Hungary, they told me. So I got a cab and I drove to shops until I found it. I bought it and I came back and I went, here it is. No, you're not wearing that one. You're doing this one. But yeah, that was fun for us.
Moral of the story, don't say no to Erica without a valid reason.
Yep, I'm gonna fight you. But yes, maybe that's it, right? And I think people do it with profile pictures as well on LinkedIn, right? They do really awful ones, and then they put one nice one going, here are some pictures my photographer took. Which do you think I should use? Knowing everyone's going to pick the one that looks decent, not the one where you're squinty-eyed or, or it's all vague or whatever. So, if that's your purpose, okay, good.
Simon, I've got a question for you because it's just something that's becoming a big business these days, and it's around templates. And there's a lot of people selling templates, and there's a lot of templates on platforms that you can only access if you then subscribe. So I was just wanting to know well, I guess this could also be like, which Simon am I asking? What's your
You
opinion?
asking the personal Simon or the
The
business
personal
Simon
Simon
or
or the
the
graphic
business Simon?
design? But what's your view on that in general on templates, especially branded templates, etc.
Um, so I'll give you some different answers now. So from a business owner's perspective, I think, yeah, brilliant. I mean, we, especially if owners are doing some of the work as well, they need templates. They need to be able to define. I mean, if we look at social, they need to be able to define those kind of post categories or post themes that they're going to be putting out, because it's going to allow their followers to identify the type of content that they want to listen to based on a visual. And it means they can just speed up the process of getting stuff done. Where templating goes wrong is that if we take Canva's are brilliant. I'm going to get shot by all the other designers out there now, because they're going to be like, "Don't start promoting Canva; you'll take our jobs away." But it is a great tool for people who haven't got the access to the Adobe suite or don't have the inclination to be able to spend hours learning it, because it is quite intricate at times. But things like Canva are brilliant for getting stuff done relatively quickly. But it's a bit of a pain because it keeps kind of fluttering things in front of your eyes that aren't necessarily on brand, and you go, "Oh, that looks nice and shiny." It's like magpie syndrome. So you kind of see the next shiny thing and you get drawn towards it. So that's where I think it becomes problematic, because if you've got maybe junior marketeers or someone that's come into the business that's been asked to complete social stuff, and they've maybe got a bit of a brand suite available to them, but then they start being pulled in different directions because they're seeing stuff, or Erica, we've spoken to before about trends that we're seeing on social, like with AI generated content and stuff. But getting on a bandwagon that then makes them not look as individual. So I think that can be the dangerous side of templating to some degree. Obviously, like I said, the great thing about it, if it's done properly, is that it speeds up the process. It means that you're consistent, and it means that your readership or followers can consistently tap into the content that they want to listen to from you. So there's twos and fours.
Yeah, I think you make a sorry, go on, Erica, you're about to say something.
No, go for it.
I was just going to say, I think you make a great point about the magpie syndrome, and I think it is a brilliant place to start. And as for somebody who isn't a graphic designer, say, and they just want to get stuff done, but there is the temptation to move outside of brand consistency with that. I think I also quite like Canva. I use Canva, but I use it more for inspiration rather than templates, if you know what I mean. For like from like maybe module examples. So if I want to make a certain table or something like that, and I just want to get some inspiration of how I can implement a table in a slide, for example, just use it as inspiration. But there's so many beautiful templates on there. Sometimes you can even feel them drawing you in, saying, "Use me, use me, use me," and it's very hard to resist it.
Yeah, I think the secret there is that people, I would almost say, lazy sometimes, and that's quite a upfront thing to say. But because they're time poor and they want to get something else, but they want a new look, or they've got an event coming up and they haven't got an event template, so they're going to dive into Canva, have a look at what event templates are. I've got literally 15 minutes to get this posted before I leave the office. I'm just going to use that. Whereas actually what they could do is they could say, right, okay, I need an event template. I really like that one. Let me spend 5 extra minutes just changing the color scheme, adjusting the fonts, putting our logo in it, making sure the images that are in there are on brand, and then use it, which means that instantly it feels more connected to their business rather than just using something that's completely random.
Yeah, and also it's the same as when you go on LinkedIn, you can say that post was done by ChatGPT, that post was done by ChatGPT. When I see posts and stuff using a Canva template, because I use Canva quite a lot, I can just say that's a Canva template,
Yeah.
that's a Canva template. So you start getting into into that kind of area where everything starts looking fairly similar. And like Canva always use these little asterisk stars and these little squares made up of dots. I don't know if you see them, and they're everywhere, and they look beautiful. And you see them in people's LinkedIn posts. I go, that looks beautiful, but it also looks the same beautiful as the last 10 posts I just saw.
I think two problems with that I've seen is the one is where a designer or someone will create a series of templates for someone to use, right? So it shouldn't be one, it should be a series. But then the owner or marketer falls in love with one of them. And so then every post has exactly the same. It looks basically they've just changed the text on it, for example, or like, so that for me, that becomes samey. And what I've said to people is people will assume they've seen that post. And so they won't read it because they go, oh, it looks exact, because you look with your eye first, right? You look at that. And so if it looks exactly the same as the one I've just seen, you're going to miss it. And that's also the same as your point, where people take an existing template from Canva, for example, and just change the colors and assume that's enough. But it's not enough, right? You have to look at the font in there. You have to look at placement. You have to look at the images. You have to look at that. It's not just change it to pink and now that's my brand and it's all good, right? Because that also becomes samey. And then again, your audience is skimming because they're like, seen it. They're not going to take the time. It takes energy. And I've got something I'm hopping on a lot at the moment is people who don't know you are willing to give you very little time and energy. Okay. The more they get to engage with you, that time and energy increases until eventually it turns into cash, right? I'm now willing to give you cash. So at the top of that funnel, if you're expecting someone to look at it and go, oh no, let me read the text to see if this is one that I've seen before. You're asking for a level of energy that most people are not going to give you, right? They're not going to stop. I know my brain is saying I've seen this, but let me just read it and make sure that this is one that I've read. No, who's going to do that? And so all your work is being lost into the ether because you haven't spent that time on just tweaking more than paint a color of it.
But that's why I feel the power of the designer comes in, a graphic designer or a brand designer, because they can use the same brand guidelines, same colors, same shapes, whatever, but it's the subtlety in the design that makes it very different. If we take Apple, for example, it's wherever you see an Apple advert, product, website, any kind of customer facing asset, it's Apple, but they look similar, but everything looks different at the same time, if you know what I mean. But it has a very, very strong identity. And that's not because they're just changing the colors on one template in Canva. It's because they got someone who really knows what they're doing, or well, they've probably got a big team of people who really know what they're doing. And they're very intelligent in that. And that's where the power of the designer comes in.
Yeah, I think it always feels a little bit like the Apple example feels like a bit cliche, but actually it's one that people really understand. You're walking through a shopping center, you pretty much everyone would instantly know that it's an Apple advert. Take away the logo, take away the product, just the font, the white spacing, the background color, whatever, they will instantly know that it's Apple. I think it's really interesting what you said about the energy side of things, Erica, because I guess also people are expending more energy while they're learning about us. So while they're connecting with our brand, what we want to be doing over time is we want to be giving them the opportunity to still experience and take in what we're saying, but by using less energy. And that's where that templating comes in as well. If we are changing the design or changing thing all the time, they're not going to want to keep using up additional energy for us because we're just asking them to, we're trying to re-educate them all the time effectively. And we want to make that process easier for them.
Yeah, and we're in a world where there's just so much content, and I think we're all kind of aware now that the myth of that our attention spans are shortening. That's kind of I think we debunked that. It's just there's so much content that you're fighting against. You just need to have quality content, and if you get to the point, like just as you said, so I'm just kind of re-emphasizing what you're saying. If you're making them work hard, but then half a centimeter to the right, they've got another piece of content that's attracting their attention, and it's not making them work hard, they're just going to move on.
Yeah. And it's the subtleties, I think, that people forget is what makes people work hard. If you're looking at something visually in the design space, but something's off and you don't know what it is, right? Like it's not clear, but something's off. And I mean, Alex is far better than this, and you as well, Simon, than I am. And that's why I always say to Alex, if I spot something's off, then it must be exploding, right? Because design is not my strong suit. But so if I see it, like something's off here, how much more for the audience? Because immediately that builds distrust. It's immediate, right? Like something's off. I don't want to spend time trying to figure out what it is. I'm actually just going to move to the next person. And it's back to your point of the design after marketing bit, because it's the same with that. If you, my bugbear is contracts, right? If someone goes through all these beautiful marketing processes and even, the sales pitch is all beautifully done and everything gels up, and then they're like, yes, sign me up. And then they get this horrendous, ugly Word document contract. Like, it's such a disconnect, right? Like, it's just a disconnect to be like, or, Google templates or something. And like, why spend 5 minutes just lifting that game a little bit? Because every disconnect you create breaks down the trust of that client. Every disconnect of, oh, that's not what I was expecting. Then, maybe you didn't deliver on time. Oh, that's not what I was expecting. Then maybe they couldn't get hold of customer service. Oh, okay. So every one of those. And then you wonder why your customers leave. Like, okay, let's plot back all the times you were breaking down their trust. And it adds up. And then they talk with their feet, right? They leave and go find someone else.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of design after marketing principle came in probably 20 years ago now, when I was working in-house as a senior creative designer for a global tech company. So they had a good marketing team, an amazing sales team, development team, and etc. Luckily all in this country. But they had kind of satellite offices around. And we had an instance where they had a lead in, the salesperson went out to meet the client, and we're talking, these really big, decent sized clients here. Went out to meet the client, had a brilliant session, like very close to signing them, but they needed some more information. So he went away. He sent the information over, and then the client came back and said, "Oh, that's fine, that's brilliant. Thanks for sending over. We need to have another meeting in 3 weeks." And he said, "Oh, I'm on holiday then." And and it's kind of like, well, that's when we need to have the meeting because we've got everyone in the office. Okay, well, we'll send John over instead. So John went over, all prepped up, but went with his template for his PowerPoint presentation. And after the meeting, the kind of feedback came, well, who did you send to the meeting? Like, apparently he was from your company. His PowerPoint presentation didn't look anything like your company. The type of information in the way he was presenting it wasn't like we'd seen before. We're not really too sure if we want to actually, like, we've got mixed feelings now. This is not really working for us. So, it's quite literally as simple as that. And we could then see that, like, sales guys didn't have a central source of a PowerPoint presentation. So it's kind of like, yeah, John, can you pass me that PowerPoint presentation? I've got another presentation on Friday, I just need to do it, puts his own touch on it. And then Sam asked John for his PowerPoint presentation because he knows he's been working on the same service, so he wants to add it into his. And before you know it, you've just got this horrible mix match of nastiness. that's going out and being presented, which of course is totally off brand. It's going to weaken every bit of, you know, authority that you might have had to start off with. And that's where it's kind of all come from, and it's stuck.
That's why I was picking on the engineers at the beginning, because I've worked with lots of engineers before, and I'm sorry guys, I'm sorry guys. I'm sure there's some of you who aren't all like this, but they're just the worst. And then they do exactly what you said. They're like, oh yeah, I was working on this part of whatever it was, and I got a bit of that from this section of my PowerPoint. I send it over to you, and they use one template, and the other person used a template. And I even got it when they were using they went to get a logo, but it was like the logo from 5 editions ago, and it's like, what? How does that even happen? But I was like, at least they used a logo.
Oh, I do that too. I
Formatted.
feel bad now. I do that to you on our podcast. I used the wrong logo once, and Alex like,
Yeah.
that's the old logo. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Simon, I saw on your website you've got a brand scorecard.
Yes.
And I was wondering if you could. I wanted to go through it, but I didn't have time, I have to admit. But I'd just like to, if you could just talk about that. It's very interesting.
Yeah, so little plug, if anyone would like to go to it, they need to go to designthatpays.com. So basically it's kind of just splitting up our process really. It's pretty much 10 questions. It takes about 2 minutes to complete. Most of it's check boxes, so you don't have to really think too much, just have to concentrate on the questions. But it gives people a really good idea of kind of like where their current branding and design stands, and identifies where the gaps are. Now, obviously, you know, once they complete it, I get a copy of it. They get a prompt as well to be able to kind of WhatsApp their scores to me pretty much instantly. And then I can have a look to see where they haven't checked the boxes, or what level they haven't checked the boxes. So it's most of the questions are like 1 to 5. And then I can quickly see where their obvious gaps are and what's really going to make the biggest difference for them. So, you know, they might going back to templating, they might not have got any on-brand templates, and therefore the speed of them creating design and marketing is really slow, and that's frustrating them. So we can identify that. Maybe they don't have any form of brand guidelines. So even if that's just like a single sheet brand board, as a reference point, which therefore means that a lot of their other stuff is likely to be either not really as on brand as it could be. So, you know, right the way through. So, you know, I spoke earlier about the DNA of the business. So we touch a few on those. Do they know who their target audience is? What's their USP? Those kind of things. And then right the way through into the kind of items that we put into a marketing design brief. So, you know, what's your call to action? Are you using a valid call to action? Is it a benefit driven call to action? And things like that. So just getting people's minds ticking on that front as well. So, you know, call us today on to no, you know, it needs to have that level of benefit. Why are they reading what they're reading, and what's the call to action based on what they're reading? And for them and for you as well. I mean, I think this is a lot of businesses forget that the reason why you put a call to action there is to draw people towards you. So think about the benefit on both parts. So, you know, if they're going to book a call, why are they booking a call? Why is that beneficial for you as a business? Well, we get to identify their challenges, their gaps, what's really underpinning their need at the moment. So, and that can also tie into some of the processes as well. So, you know, like I said, 2.5 minutes, 10 questions. It's just a no-brainer for a lot of people just to quickly identify, and it automatically gives you some guidance as well on what you might want to look at as well.
And it's a nice lead magnet for you. Let's not
Well,
forget.
it is. Yeah, I'm just trying to be helpful. But yeah, I mean, it is obviously, I'm not going to deny it. It's obviously a lead magnet as well. But yeah, I think, you know, just for people just to take 2 minutes, you see quite a few, and I've done them as well, you know, where you've got really quite lengthy scorecards. And I think there's a certain amount of value there. But some people just don't have the time. So if they could, you know, I'm quite openly honest, 2 minutes of your time to complete the scorecard. Some people have done it in a lot less. I think the longest is 2 minutes 40. So, you know, it's it just offers that level of value straight away, and they can tap into my 25 years afterwards as well.
Yeah, I think just by asking a few simple questions or challenging someone on what they've already done is already providing them value, because especially if they're an uh, owner, CEO, what's the word I'm looking for? Business owner, CEO guy, and you don't have any time. Sometimes you just do to get done, and you don't have time or anyone to challenge you on some of the decisions that you've made.
Yeah, I think some of it, I mean, some of those questions, you can see correlations between where you've overscored on that because you're saying this down here. It's a bit like taking people through a discovery, process. So maybe you start with a questionnaire which is certain types of questions, and they give you a really short answer. And you can then, if you're reviewing that and you're likely to be running through that with them, you can reterm the question or ask it in a different way, or delve into the few words of answer that they've got to kind of dig a bit deeper and tease it out of them. And I think that's what the scorecard's there for, really, is to kind of start to get people's minds thinking about this so that we can tease out a bit more when we have a call.
So the one thing I think people forget, and definitely people we've worked with about design, is that it's supposed to make you feel something. And so that's where a lot of people get stuck, is we ask the question, how do you want whoever's looking at this to feel? Is that something you've come across as well?
Yeah, I think you have to remind businesses it is all about emotional connection.
Yeah.
I think it's lost a lot of the time as well. And that probably comes down to them not thinking enough or delving deep enough into their audience and their target market. So, going in as high level, oh yeah, we deal with lawyers. Okay, fine, but who within that firm are you dealing with? Oh, well, the owner. Okay, but let's think about this a little bit more. They'll write deep into who that person is, how long they've been in the business, what their age is, could be what car they drive, because that will give you some inclination as to the type of person they might be. What do they do at the weekends? Do they play golf? Do they play squash? Are they more of a paddleball player? Really understanding the people behind it. And I think it's only at that point that we can start truly tapping into the emotional side of what we're doing from a marketing and design perspective.
It's also really, really important to get someone else's another perspective, a perspective that you trust on it as well. So, for example, working with an external design team like yourself, for example, can be really important. I mean, I'm not I have a design background. It's not my full-time job as a designer, but I have a very good understanding of design. But with my own stuff and the stuff that Eric and I work on, sometimes I feel like, because I'm so in the weeds, it can be hard to really be objective to some of the things that we do. And we are amazing at working with other clients, but I find it much harder working on our own stuff than I do on other people's stuff. So having someone external to ask you some questions can really help you to kind of take a step back and think, oh, well, yeah, maybe that doesn't make sense, or I've kind of overused something here, or so I feel like there's a lot of power in that as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, we can all be a bit too close to it sometimes, can't we?
Mm.
Actually, when we did, we rebranded Visualise, 6 or 7 years ago, I suppose, still with the same identity as we're running now, with a few little tweaks. But I was way too close to it. So I took myself through our process,
Yeah.
sat in a coffee shop for half a day filling out a discovery form, but then just said, hey guys, go. This is how I see the business. This is how I'm seeing the growth patterns and everything. This is who we're dealing with at the moment. Now can you guys read the brief and come up with the concepts for me? And they did a brilliant job, and it's still there today. So it's kind of like, I would have literally have just kept going around in circles on that process, because I knew what I want, but I would get to a point where I don't really know whether that's right. Or I'd hit the perfection front on it and be like, like the artist. Oh, just one more dab here and one more dab there, and before long you've totally ruined it and you don't know how to go backwards. Whereas getting someone else, like you say, getting someone else involved, just kind of they can see it from a slightly different perspective.
Yeah, I think Erica and I are going to go through a similar process now, actually, with our own brand, taking ourselves through our own process, just to kind of, do a sort of MOT on where we are, really.
But I think it's really useful as well, because like you only know what you know sometimes, and you can see how you're taking a client through the process. But like I used it as kind of a bit of a test platform as well. So did they get all the information that they needed from me to be able to do the job that they need to do? I mean, most of the two that were dealing, I asked to complete the work for me, had been working with me for a little while, so they kind of knew who I was, and what I wanted, and the process behind the business. But we were looking to push forwards, so so it was really like, scrutinize this, tell me if I've missed anything, because I only know what I know, and it's not going to hurt for someone to come back to me and go, right, okay, look, we've missed a massive chunk here in the briefing process that doesn't cover X. This is what we need. And then I can refine things. And I think it's worth doing that every once in a while anyway, kind of like just taking yourself through like the process, just to review what you're actually doing with clients. Yeah, we usually get a great result from the clients, but can we take it up a notch? Can we improve it slightly to make it even better?
Absolutely. Yeah. So Simon, where can people get hold of you when if they want to come and chat to you about design or run their process through you, etc.?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. Just search for Simon Hutchings on LinkedIn. You should find me. Website is wearevisualise.co.uk. And if you want to have a go at that scorecard again, it's designthatpays.com. But yeah, find me on social. LinkedIn is probably the best place to connect, to be honest. Mention the podcast just so I know where you've come from. That'd be really useful. And yeah, always happy to have a chat and see whether I can support people or just offer them some advice.
Fantastic. And are there any closing advice words you want to share with our audience?
There's so many, isn't there? I think definitely for most people, the biggest conversation at the moment is that design after marketing. So identify, like, work through your processes, work through where you're taking a client, right from the point of which you get that opportunity come through the door, right the way through the business to the point at which you're nurturing them and you're just retaining them as a client. Understand what assets you need as part of that entire process, and then just have a look through those and identify the design gaps. If you've just, like you said earlier, if you've got a proposal document or a contract that's just a Word document, how can you improve that? How can you apply brand and identity to that to make them feel like you really do care for them? Because that's what's happening, really. You're just taking them through the business, and you're kind of, I've explained in the past, is you're giving them less design love as you're going through the business, and we want to hold on to clients. We want to make them feel like they're cared for, and giving them well branded and beautifully designed pieces right the way through the process is going to help that.
Fantastic. Alex, your biggest takeaway from chatting to Simon today?
No, I think I just really agree with what Simon says. I think let's not neglect people after the top of the funnel stage. Remember the funnel is a long journey, and then also just to add what you mentioned earlier, Eric, about your employees, and just linking that to what Simon said about assets. Your employees are some of the biggest and most important assets of your business. So make sure your assets are branded as well. And what do I mean by that? I mean, make sure that they are living your brand, make sure that they feel it when they're at work. And so when they're speaking to clients, they are expressing your brand, they are amplifying your brand even more.
Absolutely. And it's not just a branded t-shirt.
No, it's not.
Simon, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been wonderful talking with you, as always.
Thanks for you both. Yeah, amazing.
Alex,
Cheers,
it's always
Simon.
fun.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
See you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Giraffes Don't Eat Steak, where curious marketers zig when others zag. If you enjoyed the episode, share it with someone who loves great marketing conversations. And don't forget to follow, review, or drop us a note. We love hearing from fellow curious minds, and if your own marketing's feeling a bit tangled, check out our Marketing Power Hour. It's a focused one-to-one session designed to help you get clarity and momentum. Just go to themarketingdetectives.com and book your slot. Until next time, keep zigging.